Hola chicos, welcome to Spanish Lessons with Seva. Today we're going to discuss the irregular verbs in the past. What kind of past will it be? It will be the preterite, which also is known as the simple past. In English it would be I did, we ate, she worked. Alright, so the difference between the regular and irregular verbs are regular verbs are predictable when you conjugate them. The irregular verbs are somewhat unpredictable. They exist both in English and in Spanish. It's nothing scary. You can learn them quite easily. It just will take a little bit of time. And also in Spanish, unlike in English, they come in clusters that are easier to learn and slightly more predictable. All right, so what would be the examples of irregular verbs? You know that it would be dar, you already have learned them in the present, ir, saber, tener, etc. Those are not all of them, but those are just the examples. Let's take a look. So you know that there are regular verbs and there are irregular verbs. This lesson is assuming that you are already okay with the conjugation of the regular verbs in the preterite, also known as the past tense in Spanish, simple past. And if you are not comfortable with it, please go back, make yourself comfortable with the regular verbs conjugation, and then come to watch this lesson. All right, so in English and in Spanish, there are regular verbs. For example, you have an English verb to explain, and in order to make it, to conjugate it in the past tense, you add ed to it. And it's easy, and that's how you do it for the regular verbs, and it's predictable, and it works for all regular verbs in English like that. So in Spanish, the example would be hablar. You have the root, you have the ending, you remove the ending, you have able as the root, and then you add the endings. Hable would be I spoke. And it would be the example of a regular verb conjugation, and then you could conjugate it for any subject pronoun, any person. You have comer, again, com is the root of the verb, you have the ending er, and then you remove the ending er. What do you have? You have com, and then you add the conjugation endings to it, and it would be comiste, and it would be you ate, and it would be the regular predictable verb conjugation. But there are also irregular verbs. In English, it would be to go, for example, and you cannot do it as you did before. You cannot say, I go to the store, because it is not correct. So what do you need to do? You need to know that the other form of this verb in the past, in the simple past, in the preterite, will be not goed, which is very cute, but not correct, but it will be went. So you need to memorize it. Therefore, that verb is irregular. And so in Spanish, there are verbs like that. For example, the verb is poder. It ends on er, right? So regularly, you would say pod, and you would add to it, oh, poder, as you did in here. And yet it is incorrect. So you do not do that. It is very wrong. Why is it wrong? Because the root of the verb changes slightly. It will be pud. And then you add e without the accent mark, and it will be pude, and it means I could. So therefore, this verb is the irregular, and you need to memorize that the root of the verb and the ending are slightly different from the regular verb. Okay, so let's move on. Here you have examples of the irregular verbs in Spanish. You have here andar, to go, to move, venir, to come, poder, to be able, can, saber, to know, or in the past tense, to find out, querer, to want or to love, traer, to bring, producir, to produce. Those are examples. So you have here the roots of them that are slightly different from the regular roots. From andar, it would be andu. For venir, it will be vin. and for poder it will be pud that you already have seen, and so forth. You will see that the roots are slightly different, and when you conjugate the verb, you will need to take those slightly different roots and to attach the endings corresponding to the irregular verbs to them. Example would be, tú trajiste la comida. You brought the food. Ella supo la verdad. Ella, she, supo, the verb saber. She found out the truth. Because when you start knowing something suddenly, and you know that preterite deals with the events that happened at a certain moment, so she found out the truth. Vinieron a la fiesta. They came to the party. And that would be the example of conjugating of the irregular verbs in the preterite, or also known as the simple past. Yeah? All right, so let's take a look at following. What I wanted to point out here is that many times what looks like many irregular verbs, actually it's one. Let's take, for example, the verb poner, which means to put, to place. So you have here componer, you have here proponer, you have here disponer. Looks like there are 4 different verbs. And yet, if you pay attention to the root, which would be poner, which would be poner, and it would be poner, it is all the same root. And what is different are the prefixes, and they do not change anything. They do not change the conjugation. They change the meaning, but not the conjugation. So note that the irregular root will be pus, 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 and pus, and all of them. So it does not change. So really what you're learning here, it's only one irregular verb. So note that prefixes do not change the conjugation of the root. Hacer would be the same thing. Hacer is to do or to make, and the irregular root will be is, yeah, or hic in English. So, and then you pay attention that deshacer and rehacer would be just changing of the prefix, but not of the root. So the root stays the same, so it's not that difficult. So it will be hice, hiciste, and so forth. Means to do or to make. Then decir is to say, and you have here again the prefix pre, and then it does not affect the root, irregular root, dich. Yeah. So this is the pattern that you will learn to recognize, and it should not stress you out because there are definitely not many irregular verbs, and they can be learned quite easily. All right, let's see some examples. We have here lo hice, and that would be for this verb to do or to make right here. It means I did it. Note that subject pronoun, this one, is optional in Spanish, so you could use it or you could skip it because Spanish is the language of freedom. All right, nosotros no dijimos nada. Nosotros no dijimos nada. We choose to use the subject pronoun no dijimos. We didn't say anything. So in Spanish it's double negative, so it's nosotros no dijimos nada. Double negative is actually correct and required. We said nothing. ¿Qué dijiste? What did you say? Again, you're using the irregular root dich. You see it right here. All right. I hope this explanation was easy, encouraging, and somewhat useful. And if you're not comfortable conjugating the regular verbs, I remind you that you should see my video on the site on the conjugation of regular verbs. Otherwise, I will record a practice for the irregular verbs very soon, so you are welcome to use it. If you need anything else, please let me know. I'll record an extra video for you. Otherwise, ciao, pescao.